Battlefield 3 has been a highly anticipated first-person shooter along with Modern Warfare 3 this year. Now, before I say which one is better, let me first say that you have to download a 1.5 HD texture pack in order to prevent the game from looking like a fucking PS2 game, and you have to pay for the online multiplayer if you're planning on renting the game, so just keep those two factors in mind. In the game's campaign mode, you play as a Marine named Blackburn, and he's being interrogated by these two other CIA guys, and basically you're after these nukes. It's kind of like what Call of Duty 4 was in terms of there's some terrorists in possession of nuclear weapons, and your goal is to stop them. And basically these guys are trying to interrogate you, and it's sort of like a flashback sequence the same way that Black Ops had it last year, where basically like they ask you, oh, what happened during this mission? So essentially each mission is a flashback sequence or a memory sequence where Blackburn recalls what he did or whatever, and see if there's any clues to find out the location of the nuclear weapons and stuff like that. My problem with it, like I stated in my Black Ops review, is that you don't feel any sense of danger towards the character because you already know he lives through it. Unlike the Modern Warfare games where some of the characters actually die, so you're unsure as to whether they're going to live, but now you obviously know that he's going to live if all the missions are in the past, so that took out, like the sense of danger towards your character, and that was a bad thing in my opinion. I just felt the storytelling method that they used in the campaign here was just way too ripped off from Black Ops. I mean, I wouldn't have had as much of a problem with it if it ripped off a game that came out like 7 years ago, but Black Ops only came out a year before, so it's undeniably, influenced by Black Ops there, and it just feels way too unoriginal, not very fresh at all, this storytelling method. I also had a hard time caring about what happened or a lot of the characters in the game, so, I mean, while the story isn't actually horrible, it just too derivative, and it's just not original at all. In terms of the audio-visual presentation, the game is pretty damn inconsistent. I mean, the audio department, I'll just start off by saying that it's obviously good. You expect it to be perfect at this point, and the voice acting is pretty good, but that ultimately doesn't help the story at all, really. Keep in mind that this is on the Xbox 360, so I'm not sure how the PC version looks, but I just found that there were a lot of frame rate issues while I was playing the game, and a lot of the textures up close don't look very good. Like specifically when cars explode and like the interior vehicles just look unexcusably horrible. Like Modern Warfare 3 did a lot better, I think, in terms of details up close. I'm just showing an example here of how poor the textures are, really. I mean, the game at one point did impress me with its forests and vegetation and stuff like that. I thought it was really phenomenal, like actually Crisis level. But here, when you take a look at this shit, I mean, it just looks really horrible. And this is with the HD pack installed. I know it is the multiplayer portion, but everyone keeps saying that it looks awesome too, but it really just doesn't. I mean, the game generally looks above average, I would say, but just not great. In terms of the game plays out a lot kind of like Call of Duty, except there are some minor drawbacks here. Like, you can't cook grenades, you have to instantly throw them off, which is kind of stupid. And also, I don't know why they added this detail, but you have to, like, they glow, like, when they're on the ground right before they detonate. I guess it's useful in terms of seeing it, but it's not very realistic at all. There's also an abundance of QuickTime events like you just saw scattered throughout this campaign. Now, normally I'm actually a big fan of QuickTime events. I actually like them. But here, like, in the context, they sort of feel like uninspired, dull, and sort of lifeless. They just feel like generic, not a whole lot of excitement to them. Kind of like what Modern Warfare 2 did it right, like at the end of the finale when you're taking down General Shepard or whatever. That was actually like a good QuickTime event. But here, the fights that you engage in when you're doing like the QuickTime shit, they feel lifeless and just dull. So I just wish they weren't in the game at all. I wouldn't say there were a lot of interesting set pieces either. I mean, there's like one good place, I think, which is like a safe house you take down at the end of the game, and that was really interesting to fight in. But besides that, like, I just feel the settings are just sort of bare bones and generic and just not interesting to fight in. The campaign took me around 6 hours, I think, or 5 hours maybe, I don't remember, to beat. And while I did have some fun with it, I'm not saying it's horrible. I mean, it is pretty fun sometimes. It just felt like lacking in terms of the story and in terms of the set pieces. There's also a co-op mode in the game, and this is kind of fun, I suppose. It's sort of like different variants of the campaign with another person, kind of like what Spec Ops was, but I definitely prefer Spec Ops and Modern Warfare compared to this. But I mean, it's okay, It's not there's not a whole lot of depth to it, really. But it was some fun for me, at least. Now I'll talk about the multiplayer part of this game, which is what everyone's apparently raving about. Basically, it just there's like 6 or 7 different maps in the game. Most of them are really large and include several different types of vehicles like tanks and planes and shit like that. Basically, I just kind of find it really hard to travel around. Like, it just takes way too fucking long to go anywhere. Just a bunch of cross-mapping marathons, way too much. And it just takes a way too long of a time to get anywhere. Considering the size of the maps, there aren't nearly as many people allowed in the game as there should be. I mean, it's 12 versus 12, which seems pretty large in theory, but considering how large the maps are, like, it just makes it seem really small, and it's really hard to find anyone. Like, on the PC version, there's, like, up to 64 players, which means 32 on 32. But here, it's just 12 on 12, which, when combined, that's only 24. That's not even up to one team's worth of people on the PC version. So I guess they've just failed to upscale the amount of players relative to the size of the maps in this game. There are vehicles in the multiplayer, and basically I'm not really a fan of vehicles in any multiplayer except Halo games, and even there I have a few problems. Basically, they all control like shit. They're really hard to handle, especially the planes. So I don't know. I just don't like the vehicles in this game very much. A lot of my issues with the multiplayer have to do with personal preference. I mean, if you like humongous maps to just like camp and snipe on and shit, then you'll probably have a blast here. But I'm just not a fan of vehicles. I'm not really a big fan of big maps and cross-map marathons, so that's just not to my playing style at all. And when comparing this game to Modern Warfare 3, I think Modern Warfare 3 wins on basically every aspect, in my opinion. Even the graphics, I think, in terms of like the cars and the details up close, are better in Modern Warfare 3. And I like the art style a lot more. Like here, especially in the multiplayer, there's like a weird contrast between like bright areas and like darkness. It's just a weird like lighting issue that I've had with this game. On its own, I think Battlefield 3 can be a fun game, and like I said before, a lot of it depends on personal playing style. But when you're comparing this game to Modern Warfare 3, I think Modern Warfare 3 takes the awards easily in pretty much every aspect, I should say. I just think Modern Warfare 3 has a much better campaign, much more exciting, better story, better multiplayer in terms of ranking up and stuff like that. I think smoother gameplay too. Graphics are more detailed up close. More fun like more co-op missions that are like more fun to play than this, that are more varied, I should say. But on its own 2 feet, Battlefield 3 I think is a good game, but it's just not as good as Modern Warfare 3. So if you're on the edge between those two games, I would suggest heavily paying for Modern Warfare 3 over this any day.